Hello, everyone. Welcome to Everything is Energy. Welcome to the last of three major shifts that's taking place in this couple years of time. Uranus is moving into Gemini tomorrow. I'm recording this on the 24th of April. On the 24th of April, actually, Venus is moving into Gemini. I'll touch on that lightly, but I want to focus on Uranus tomorrow. Moves into Gemini at April 25th at 8:51 p.m. And this is a part of a much larger shift. We're living through a time period, and I'll get into the backdrop before I do a deep dive right into Uranus. But this is a memorable time. This isn't just a period of change. This is really a reorganization of reality itself. And this isn't just over the past several months. This is something exceedingly rare. We have all three outer planets that really, outer planets shape collective consciousness. They move very slowly. And, Pluto in November 2025 entered into Aquarius. Pluto has a 248-year cycle. Pluto spends 11 to 30 years in each sign. And in January of this year, we had Neptune moving into Aries. Neptune has a 165-year cycle, and Neptune spends 14 to 15 years in each sign. And tomorrow, on April 25th, we have Uranus entering into the sign of Gemini, leaving Taurus and moving into Gemini. And Uranus's cycle is 84 years long, and it spends 7 to 8 years in each cycle. And so these outer planets, transpersonal planets, named as such because their orbits are so long that depending on what you believe how long you're going to live, 84 years, 165 years, 248 years, at least the last two are exceedingly rare, at least in what we know today, to be a human life cycle. So it's called a generational planet because one particular person doesn't necessarily see the whole cycle or it cannot comprehend the whole cycle or document it within themselves. And if we just really lightly, we also had, Saturn changing signs this year. Saturn's orbit is around 30 years. It spends 2.5 to 3 years in a cycle. Jupiter also changed signs this year. Jupiter's orbit is 12 years, so it changes signs roughly every year, 12 to 13 months. So that also happened this year. Um, Reasonably rare, but if you think about it, that kind of is every few years. The big thing is the outer planets. Saturn and Jupiter are, kind of moving into the inner planets, and the inner planets, Venus, Mars, and Mercury, those cycles are within a year or two, and they shift, within 3 weeks to 7 weeks, they shift signs. So those are our personal planets because it's something that within this lifetime, we really do get a sense that we can have multiple iterations of an experience of what it means for us to have a particular planet in a particular sign, especially if we look at our birth chart. But before I go into all that, I'm sorry this is kind of a long lead into this. This is not a random moment. What's happening tomorrow on the 25th is a part of something that hasn't happened in thousands and thousands of years. So I'm going to put a pin in that part because that is, it's a threshold. And, when multiple outer planets change signs within such a short window of time, this started last year and it's culminating this year. We're no longer simply evolving. We're crossing into a new chapter of human experience. And you might feel this as an acceleration, but it also might feel like it's an uncertainty or an awakening or a sense that the old ways are no longer holding. They're no longer holding because they don't energetically. We're being asked collectively and individually to reorient to a new energetic landscape. And so I've done videos on Pluto and Neptune and Saturn and Jupiter. I'm going to focus on Uranus today, touching lightly on Venus in the sense that Venus is also pretty much consecutively within 24 hours of time dipping into Gemini, but her cycle is going to spend 3 to 5 weeks in Gemini. So that's very different than 7 or 8 years. But if we look at what Uranus into Gemini, we're shifting out of Taurus and into Gemini. And before I get to Gemini, I want to say that Uranus has been in Taurus since 2018. Taurus is Earth. Taurus is fixed feminine Earth ruled by Venus. In its form, Taurus is stability. It's the body, it's the land, it's the earth, it's resources, it's money, it's what we build to make ourselves feel safe. And during those years, Uranus disrupted a lot of that. Lightning bolt of change. Uranus is reminding us that we are the change, that we are everything that we seek. And that it's not necessarily, maybe we were reminded 2018 until 2026 right now, that maybe some of our creature comforts and the things that we thought were the reality that made us happy, maybe we were likely also invited to reorient ourselves and to take our power back and to realize that we are the source of our joy and our happiness. Not that the external world needs to be stark. It's just about a reorientation. So, not only did we see that general reorientation, but, in upheaval of financial systems, of food systems, of land relationships, and even just our understanding of what value means in and of itself. And so that was a big time. But now Uranus is leaving Earth and it's entering mutable masculine air sign of Gemini. Gemini is ruled by Mercury. Gemini is not concerned with stability. Gemini is movement. Gemini is information. Gemini is communication, curiosity, networks. It's the sign of the twins, as I like to say. It's often thought of like two sides. The twins want to see both sides. I like the metaphor of Gemini as the person at the party who doesn't just want to sit in the corner with their clique of friends and talk about the same thing that makes them feel comfortable. Gemini's work in the room, not for any other purpose. That Gemini sincerely wants to talk to everybody and wants to get to know everybody and wants to know where everybody's coming from. So this is a really cool moment for us in history because we are the high technology we seek. Uranus, the lightning bolt of change, just flashing in front of us, helping us get up and out of the places that we've been staunchly, potentially entrenched in. My way or the highway, right? There are some aspects of our societies that are implying that and imposing that more than others, but I think we can all take a little bit of self-reflection to the areas of our lives where we really feel like we are right. I've had a lot of experience, universe, and I've seen a lot of stuff, and this is just what I believe, and I have plenty of evidence why that is true. That is true, but Gemini is also saying there's somebody else in the room that maybe experienced something similar or a little bit different and might have an entirely different way of looking at it. And it's worth having that conversation. So, so we're moving just to kind of get back to the shift from Taurus into Gemini. We're moving out of restructuring our material world, Uranus and Taurus, and we're moving into this electrifying of our mental field, of our informational world. So this is cool because this is moving from form into frequency. This is moving from 3D into 5D, if I'm going to put some woo-woo language on it. But it's also moving from this idea of possession and high walls and separation into perception and interconnectivity. And it's going to become less about what we have and more about how we connect with each other. So if Uranus is the awakener, it also brings disruption. And disruption can be an interesting word for us in the modern world. It feels a little scary, but it's not, Uranus is disrupting not for the sake of chaos, it's for the sake of liberation. And if we can wrap our minds around that, then the disruption can be welcome. And in Gemini, this liberation is happening through information and communication. We're entering into a period, excuse me, of rapid shifts of how information is created, how information is shared, how information is understood. So this does mean new technologies. It also means new languages. And I think this is interesting because frequency is a language. I don't mean to be pointing at you like I'm pointing at you, but frequency is a language. Energy is a language. And it doesn't have to be that we have to create a new language, although we very well might do that. It's a new way of perception, it's a new way of thinking. And it's also a deep questioning of our reality, of what we believe and what we hold to be true. Generation is also going to happen through our nervous system and through our mental field because Gemini governs the mind. Gemini governs the nervous system. I've been kind of preparing us for this by honing in on some nervous system meditations the last couple months for all the outer planets changing signs. Our energetic systems are being upgraded. So this transit, for the next 8 years is going to heighten our sensitivity. We might feel more creatively activated. We might feel more mentally stimulated. If we're not careful, though, we could also feel very overwhelmed. There can be a lot of information coming at us. So it's also important to stay grounded and to practice discernment. Gemini also, as it's, moving into Uranus, we're talking about its disruption and liberation. It's also working through this paradox that Gemini holds and Gemini understands so well, duality versus multiplicity. I talked about the twins and almost the sign of the two people. You'll sometimes see in the sign of the twins, two people that look the same facing outward and like as if they have two varying polarized perspectives. And I was offering this notion of the person at the party wanting to talk to everybody because Gemini also understands multiplicity. Gemini understands interconnectivity. And this paradox that Gemini knows and holds and is perfectly comfortable with, very different than Taurus. But in Gemini and Uranus, we may see that there's the potential for multiple truths to exist at once. And we can take a deep breath into that. Like I was saying, part of what's happening is, we may have a very good reason for feeling so entrenched and so clear-minded on what is true for us. It does not mean that we have to abandon our truth. Gemini is inviting us to entertain other truths, multiple truths existing at once, identity becoming more fluid. And this really is going to invite the breakdown of rigid narratives. And I think this is really cool for our communication systems, for the way we exchange and understand and receive information. There's going to be more and more channels opening. Likely, we already feel those channels are opening. The fact that I can come to you recording from the mountains in the middle of the woods, this podcast is fantastic. So I would offer that this is not a transit of confusion. This is a transit of expansion. And, the collective layer here, Uranus and Gemini has historically coincided with shifts in communication, with shifts in technology. If we go back in other times where Uranus has been in Gemini, media revolutions, transportation shifts, even the way humans are able to connect across distance. So here we will likely see, we're already seeing the rapid acceleration of digital communication, the introduction and integration of AI into some systems to help us hopefully live better. Also, the decentralization of information systems. I think that if we're looking at even our media systems as this top-down structure, all the top-down structures with Pluto and Capricorn have been crumbling, but this one in particular is about decentralization of information systems. Even in terms of education, there's a lot more education online, schools coming online. There's new forms of education. There's new forms of knowledge sharing. And we're going to see a continued unraveling of centralized narratives. But this also invites a question, who controls the narrative? And how do we discern the truth in a world of infinite information? How do we know what is true to us? And this becomes one of the central themes of the initiation into this transit. It's not for us to abandon everything to AI and say, take it over, I'm going to sit on the couch forever. But it is for us to interact with technology and decide what we want and what we don't want. And it is for us to engage in new ways of communicating with each other and of giving and receiving information because we are the change. That's what Uranus says. You are the change that you seek. And so, if we are the change that we seek, how are we getting our information? How are we sharing our information? How entrenched are we about what we think is right or wrong? How can we maybe open up a conversation with somebody who holds a different viewpoint from us? We don't have to do that, but I've done that a couple times in where I live, and I found it really interesting to have conversations that I never thought that I would have had. And if anything, it's really helped me to prepare for this Gemini transit. But it's also worth noting, I'm talking very much on a high level of what this means collectively and for the big picture. But there's a personal invitation that's here too. On a personal level, Uranus in Gemini is asking us, where are we being invited to think differently? Where have our thoughts maybe become fixed, habitual, inherited? This is just the way that my family's always done it. My whoever's always done it. We do it this way because so and so said so. All that's fine, but also we can really only own that in this transit if it sits within our center as true. There are many ancestors that had very good reasons for doing what they're doing, and there's so much wisdom that is lost that is coming through from our ancestors. I love, the herbal wisdom of the plants comes to mind. There's so much stuff for us to remember. But just because somebody did something for 200 years doesn't, and that's just the way it's always been done, does not mean that that's the only reason why we just keep marching along. So this is a time to, understand what would it mean for us to liberate our mind. This is a transit to follow curiosity, to learn something new, to speak more truthfully, and to experiment with new ways of expressing ourselves. But amidst all that, this transit is also calling for self-care because it's related to our nervous system. Our nervous system is intrinsically related to our ability to read and send energy. And because if we're really going through this time of expansion without grounding can feel like fragmentation. So in this transit, we're invited to hold both openness and anchoring, curiosity and discernment, movement and presence. And just to remember that this transit doesn't exist in isolation. It's part of that larger repatterning. And I'll mention the minor triangle that I love to talk about. It's still operational. All three of these planets that have just changed signs, and this is a once in a many, many, many thousand years shift. They've been trining and sextiling each other in a minor triangle for months now. And to me, the metaphor is that those are the elders. That if the outer planets are subtle energy and the outer planets always win. If you talk to many astrologers, you can hear them say something like that. It eludes a lot of our mundane day-to-day astrology because we're so interested in what Mercury does to our phone and our computer because we can interact with it and it's visceral. And because these are generational planets, we don't have we weren't alive to, or maybe we were 248 years ago, but maybe not in this body. We don't have a thumbprint on what it was like last time Pluto went into, Aquarius or Uranus went into Gemini. This is a very larger repatterning. And the minor triangle of all these outer planets, I call them the elders. It's as if they're sitting at this table, having really in-depth, open, flowing conversations, supporting us, supporting Earth, supporting humanity during this time of initiation and transformation. So, if Pluto in Aquarius is transforming collective systems and power systems and dismantling top-down structures and putting in circular structures, Neptune in Aries is dissolving and reawakening our identity and our spiritual will. Uranus in Gemini is electrifying our mental field. And this is the field through which we interpret everything. It's the field through which we communicate. It's the field through which we create. everything. So this last transit, even though I think it might be spoken of a little bit differently by other people, I feel like it's potentially one of the most potent. They're all potent, and maybe just because this one's coming last, this is just as important as the other two. And together all of them are reshaping how we think, how we connect, and ultimately who we are becoming individually and collectively. And this isn't a time to just sit back and cling to certainty and cling to wring our hands and think about what we're losing. This is a time to become agile. This is like a time to be awake. It's a time to be curious. It's also a time to be deeply rooted in your own inner knowing. So, with that, let's get to a meditation. I wanted to offer a meditation with this transit. Go ahead and find a space where you can sit comfortably or where you can lie down. And this is going to be a shortish meditation to help us regulate our nervous system and open to new insight. So just take a moment and come into your body, come into your breath. Gently close your eyes if that feels supportive. And as you breathe, breathe in through your nose and exhale softly through the mouth. Again, breathing in through the nose and releasing the breath through the mouth, starting to let go of distraction and tension with the out breath. As you inhale, invite and call more of your awareness here. Come into this body, come into this moment with this breath. Exhale, let your shoulders drop, let any tension go. And one more time, just a deeper, easy breath. And slowly release it. And now just let your breath return to a natural, easy rhythm. We're not trying to control it here. We're just simply observing. Observing the body breathing and observing our physical vessel. Feel the weight of yourself being held by the chair or the floor or the soil beneath you. And as you're here, just connecting in this moment to your physical vessel in this moment. There's nothing to do. With your eyes closed, let your awareness expand beyond what you maybe normally see as your physical vessel into your energetic body. There's energetic pulses traveling throughout our physical body all the time. There's also our energetic field. And just start to open up to tune into the subtle currents of energy that are flowing to you and through you and around you. And just sitting in the silence, you may notice a sensation, or maybe you just simply feel stillness. Maybe you feel the space of awareness itself. And here, begin to soften. Let your jaw relax. Let your tongue relax in your mouth. Unfurrow your brow and let the space behind the eyes widen. And just begin to invite your body into a state of safety. And you might silently say to yourself, I am here. I am here. I am safe in this moment. And feel the truth of that if you can. I am safe in this moment. I am allowed to soften. I am allowed to soften. Receive that. And now bring your awareness to your breath again. And we're not trying to do anything with the breath here, but with this next inhale, imagine a soft light coming down and entering through the top of your head. And invite the soft light in. It's not overwhelming, it's just a gentle, clear light from spirit, from source, from the cosmos. This is insight and awareness. And with this transit, this soft light is also just the spark and the ignition of new understanding. So inhale, inviting that light in, and exhale, inviting and allowing that light to descend down through the body. Gentle breath, let it descend down through your throat, down through your chest, your belly, your hips, your legs. And then ultimately let that light continue to descend through your field and down into the earth beneath you. So we're not just opening and receiving, we're becoming a vessel, we're integrating. So as you breathe in, invite light and clarity and openness in through the top of your head. And as you breathe out, let yourself ground and settle and anchor. And just stay with this breath here for a few more rounds. Continue for as long as you'd like at your own pace. Inhaling light, clarity, openness. Let that light travel down through your field and exhale into the earth, grounding, settling, anchoring. One more time, breathing in, taking in the light, the clarity, and the openness, and breathing out, grounding, settling, and anchoring. And now just gently bring your awareness to the space of the mind, to your mental field. And just notice any thoughts that are present, any thoughts that may be passing through. But this time, instead of following them, just simply observe them and imagine, allow them to just pass like moving clouds across the sky. Simply observing your mental state, your mental field. And we're not trying to grasp anything here. We're not trying to solve anything. And begin to consider that you are the awareness behind the thought. You are the awareness behind the thought. And from this place, invite a simple openness. You can speak this to yourself or receive it if it resonates for you. I am available for new insight. I am available for new insight. I trust the timing of what is revealed. Receive that. Speak it. I trust the timing of what is revealed. I allow understanding to arrive with ease. Even though this is Uranian energy, this is a 8-year transit, and it does not need to be jolting physically per se. This can happen with ease. I allow understanding to arrive with ease. And just invite that energy, not forcing, not striving, just openness. And then feel again your body. Feel the breath. Feel the rise and the fall of your chest. Also feel and connect to the ground, the earth, the soil beneath you. And maybe notice that already you can be open and grounded at the same time. This is the balance. This is how we move with change. So slowly now begin to deepen your breath. Take a nice deep inhale through your nose and exhale through your mouth. Maybe gently wiggle your fingers and your toes. And when you are ready, softly open your eyes. Thank you all for joining me. Have a blessed transit of Uranus into Gemini. Bright blessings and so much love.